Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brenda Sanchez. I'm the Executive Director with Southeast Arizona Health Education Center, and I will be today's facilitator for today's panel around From Trauma to Healing, Building Understanding and Resilience. We'd like to preface today's discussion by saying that some of today's topics may feel personal or difficult because we will be discussing trauma, mental health, and experiences that can impact people across the lifespan. If you or someone you know needs support, please remember help is available in our community. You can call or text 988 for free confidential support 24 hours a day. And I will have today's panelists introduce themselves as well as provide us an overview of what does ACEs mean to them and their organization. I will start.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alberto Durazo, pertenezco a la Agencia de Salud Mental Kodak. Soy Behavioral Health Technicians y pienso que ACEs es muy importante para nuestra agencia porque de ahí depende individualizar el tratamiento según las situaciones estresantes que la persona ha vivido, ¿no?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Esperanza Torres, yo soy consultora de salud mental en Mariposa integrada. Y también soy terapeuta especializada. Para mí, ACES es un evento que viviste en la vida estresante o traumatizante que marcó tu vida. Y se puede ver en tres formas. Puede ser en modo de negligencia, abuso o un cambio en la estructura de la familia. Si tuviste un miembro de la familia con salud mental, un problema de salud mental, hubo abuso de sustancias o uso de sustancias, o también un padre que fue encarcelado. Todo eso nos impacta a lo largo de nuestra vida.
Thank
you. My name is Frank Granadas. I'm a senior advisor for Rio Rico Medical and Fire District. To me, ACEs covers from childhood to 18 years old or so, and it's the experiences that you go through, negative experiences that you go through that kind of formulate the type of person that you're going to be and how you respond to different things. I didn't really understand it till about 4 years ago, and now it kind of makes a lot more sense to me as to why I did the things I did as a child and why I do the things I do now as an adult still.
Thank you, Frank. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rene Aguirre. I am here with Constructing Circles of Peace. I am a behavioral health technician as well as a behavioral health coordinator with them. And what ACEs means is adverse childhood experiences and the way a child perceives the situation that they are going through. I know a lot of us mentioned those traumatic events, but really what it's important here is how each child perceives the experience. Everybody is different, as we may know, so their perception is all about if they think this is a dangerous situation, if they feel safe in the situation, it's all about perception.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And we have an array of organizations here. Can you all share a little bit about what are some of the resources that your organizations provide around ACEs? And we can start on.
Buenas tardes de nuevo. En cuanto a ACEs, pues desde que uno inicia la evaluación inicial, se da educación a los pacientes o a los miembros, como les llamamos, o a los clientes, y se les pregunta, ¿no? Dentro de las evaluaciones existen preguntas que en alguna vez en tu vida pasaste una historia de vida muy estresante, una experiencia, o algo que te está afectando actualmente, ¿no? Para ahí derivar el tratamiento. Existen ciertas evaluaciones específicas, como la de ACEs de 10 preguntas, y de ahí determinamos en el plan de tratamiento cuál es la necesidad y cuál es la intervención que se dará, que viene siendo una terapia de evidencia, ¿no? Ya sea terapia cognitivo-conductual, ya sea EMDR o CBT Focus Therapy, ¿no?
Pues Alberto lo dijo todo, es lo mismo que usamos herramientas estandarizadas para determinar el cuidado que necesita el paciente o el cliente, como lo mencionó Alberto. está basado en sus necesidades y también respetamos su individualidad. Y es muy importante para nosotros que se sientan que la información va a estar seguro con nosotros. Cuidamos mucho esa parte de prevenir en un futuro, ¿verdad? Que se sientan que no cuidamos la información apropiadamente. Tomamos muy en serio esa parte. Nosotros también tenemos terapia de EMDR, que es una terapia de movimientos de los ojos, y desensibilizamos y reprocesamos el trauma. Tenemos varios terapeutas especializados, 2 de ellos, y 2 estamos especializados en una técnica que se llama Flash, que también es para un trauma más, es un trauma complejo, no es un trauma severo. Vemos resultados en la primera sesión.
Creo que ese es un punto muy importante para la audiencia, saber que la información que ellos proveen con ustedes es confidencial.
Sí, así es. Ujú.
Gracias.
Could you repeat the question, please?
So what are some of the programs that your organization offers around ACEs?
Okay, so we actually have this is the first year we're doing it, where we're sending all of our firefighters through a mental health screening. And ACEs is one of the 5 questions they're going to be asked during this screening. We realize that the majority of the first responders have a pretty high number when it comes to quantitating the ACEs that they've had in their lifetime. And that's why they chose that field of being a first responder. So we have this mental health wellness that's going to be conducted, and then from that we're going to pull apart what we see as the biggest things affecting our firefighters, and then give classes on those things. We also have employees appeal program where our firefighters can go for counseling when they're off the job. We also have peer support, and we have in Southern Arizona probably have about 160 peer support first responders that our firefighters can reach out to. There's apps they can go to for the help. The biggest thing we're doing right now is we're trying to break the stigma of suck it up and let's get back to work. We're trying to say, look, that call was really bad and it hurt, and it's okay to say that I need help, because the majority of the people just get back on the truck and go back to work. We're trying to break that stigma and say that, look, these things happen for a reason, and I can tell you that it's just that the ACEs are just a huge part of why we do the things we do, why we react to the things we react to, why we're able to go out and see things and not let it bother us until later.
I think that's a great resource in the community, especially for the folks who are frontline providing support to individuals.
So in addition to what has already been said during the intake assessment, as well as member-focused therapy and group therapy, something that Circles of Peace offers is that early intervention that is so important in regards to ACEs. So we do have actually a program with juveniles, and we work directly with them. A lot of them are court-ordered, a lot of them are sent through probation. So as we know, that early intervention is important for them. And so we provide them a restorative justice approach, which we deter from a punitive approach where we tell them how everything they did is bad and how everything they do is wrong. And we take a different approach and we tell them, you let us know your story. And we empower them to make different decisions. During group, they engage with one another. We create community, which we know is a preventative factor for ACEs, right? To involve them in the community, involve them with their parents as well. We have one parenting session with their parents before they graduate. So just getting the whole family and the community together to go ahead and rebuild those strong connections that they need in order to thrive.
Thank you. I think all of you have mentioned something really, innovative and just a different approach that I think it also shows how far we've come in mental health, that it's not punitive, it's not like we're trying to destigmatize, as well as provide people different types of therapy opportunities. How does this benefit individuals who are receiving the care and support?
So we also have our firefighters going through a program from Boulder Crest Foundation called Struggle Well. Boulder Crest was designed for military veterans that came back with PTSD. They've since saw the need for it in first responders and have opened it up to that. So at Rio Rico, all of our firefighters must go through the 5-day Struggle Well program, and our administration has found a way to not have them go back on shift. After, if they're working that day, they go home, and for those 5 days, they're home or at the class, and the class basically just kind of like peels your skin off and then slowly puts it back on, and it's an incredible understanding. Day 3 is probably one of the hardest days where you let out what you've been building up with, and so the Struggle Well program is something that we're doing, that our people are going through, and we're learning to give gratitude for something each morning. We're starting our day with gratitude. We start our admin meetings with gratitude. What are you grateful for today? Because if you look the Pollyanna thing, if you look for the bad, you're going to find it, but you have to look for the good to really expose it and to be able to move forward with it. So
That's great. It's a great approach. Others?
What was the questioning? I'm sorry.
So through this innovative approach of not being punitive and as well as providing people with different opportunities to talk about mental health or like ACEs, how does this approach better the community and or provide them more opportunities to process?
Of course. Yeah, I think it's really important that we start destigmatizing. A lot of us might not be familiar with that word, but it just means starting the conversations. Bring awareness. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so by bringing awareness to the topic of ACEs and mental health, we open those doors to conversations, important conversations that must be had. If we don't talk about adverse childhood experiences, then it's not something that we're going to go ahead and, think that is real per se, or think that is actually happening. A lot of us might think, well, this is a parent's job to teach their kids the right way, but really it's a community approach, right? It's helping each other up, lifting each other up. We're teachers, we're mentors, we're behavioral health technicians, we're moms, we're dads, we're aunts and uncles. And so really being supportive of one another is really the approach that we want to take to prevent those adverse childhood experiences.
Thank you.
Sí, pienso como dicen mis compañeros aquí, creo que la educación es parte muy importante para la comunidad, ¿no? Que haya todas estas oportunidades de transmitir a la comunidad un tipo de conocimiento o hablar de estas experiencias adversas en la infancia, podemos reducir el estigma, ¿no? Y así podemos platicar de tú a tú, ¿no? Siendo que en colaboración, ¿no? Que aquí nadie es el experto más que la persona que te está platicando lo que les pasó y trabajar eso, ¿no? Aquí no es de poder de terapeuta-paciente ni nada de eso, ¿no? Alguien es más grande que el otro, ¿no? Aquí es que somos iguales, pasamos por diferentes experiencias adversas y eso reduce un poco el estigma, ¿no? Y cómo utilizar palabras, no utilizar traumas, sino, por ejemplo, preguntarle, ahorita que mencionaban a los adolescentes, René, decirles que se ha pasado por algo que le ha causado demasiado estrés o emociones que nunca había sentido, como mucho enojo, o preguntarle que si por cualquier cosa las personas tienen una euforia, ¿no? O una exacerbación de sus emociones, ¿no? Que te digan buenos días y tú contestas con una reactividad por el tono de voz o algo. Saber que esas reacciones son normales y que detrás de ello existe esas experiencias adversas o trauma, como que le podían llamar, y eso reduce el estigma, ¿no? Y la colaboración de todos para como hacer otro sistema de aproximación y la necesidad de ayudar. Pues nuestra comunidad experiencias adversas ha pasado, ¿no? Desde la inmigración, ¿no? Tenerse que venir a otro país, empezar una nueva vida, dejar a su familia, y es un duelo no tratado, ¿no? Y de ahí se va construyendo y sumando de todas las experiencias, la discriminación cuando llegas aquí y todo eso.
Sí, pienso que es muy importante, como mencionaron mis colegas, que hay que traer más concientizar más a la comunidad. Pienso que las escuelas están incorporando muchas cosas en sus programas, la comunidad también, pero nos hace falta la parte de la familia, porque no queremos hablar, hay tabús, muchos tabús alrededor de salud mental, entonces tenemos que traer normalizar eso, hablarlo en familia, hablarlo con los adolescentes. En un estudio, en una encuesta que se les hizo a papás, se encontró que 98% de ellos no saben cómo iniciar una conversación acerca de salud mental. Entonces, más educación para los papás necesitamos. Ahí.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue of how do we have these conversations at home for those that are listening and they're thinking maybe this is something I should bring up at the dinner table. How do we get those difficult conversations started?
Pasa algo muy interesante. Cuando vemos los comportamientos, como dice Alberto, empezamos a juzgar. Muchas veces tenemos que identificar si es una etapa de la adolescencia o verdaderamente están pasando por algún momento adverso, ¿no? A una dificultad. Traer las conversaciones abiertamente, hacer preguntas abiertas, preguntarles directamente y ver su punto de vista de ellos, no volvernos investigadores, porque a veces nos volvemos un agente del ICE o del FBI tratando de indagar, ¿verdad? De voy a buscar en el teléfono, empecemos y nos volvemos intrusivos en cuanto a lo que es la intimidad de nuestros adolescentes y también su privacidad. Pensamos que la privacidad se la deben de ganar y no, la privacidad se otorga. Pero traer esas conversaciones, asegurarles que están seguros con la información que nos van a dar. Esas son otras de las cosas, son los baldes que necesitamos para sentirnos una persona entera, es seguridad, conexión, buenas decisiones y en medio también está lo que es sentirnos queridos, sentirnos aceptados.
Nada más quería agregar algo más. Ahorita que están en cuanto a educación de la familia es muy importante y hay que recordar bien en claro que a veces es más retraumatizante el ir a pedir ayuda, ¿no? Como cuando dicen el recibir es dar, que desde la persona que es la secretaria o recepcionista te trata mal o algo o levanta el teléfono de mala manera, de ahí la persona regresa, ¿no? Y hay que recordar como una comunidad como Nogales, las familias siempre están viviendo como en un modo de supervivencia, ¿no? Podría ser por las experiencias adversas, por trauma, entonces es también cuestión cultural que se nos enseña que todo se quedó en casa, nadie sale, y desde ahí pues de chiquitos empieza eso, ¿no? Esa crianza de que no hables afuera de nada de lo que pasa aquí, entonces es difícil cuando llegamos a la edad adulta abrirnos, ¿no? Por eso dice, pues la educación en la familia, pienso que es bien importante cuando los niños en las escuelas es más oportunidad de captar y lo que habla René, de prevenir a futuro lo que sería ya el impacto de estas experiencias adversas, ¿no?
Just adding a little bit more is, I always, whenever we do trainings or I ask my clients, it's don't ask the question if you're not prepared for an answer, right? So if you want to start having these conversations, be prepared for the answer, because not all the time is it going to be a happy answer, right? So just be prepared for that as best as you can. There is tools in the community, there is resources. There is a vast majority of agencies who are willing to help. And so just being aware that there are those resources. If we don't know how to ask the question, if we're not ready to ask the question, maybe to reach out for help and just ask, how can I have a better relationship with my adolescent? How can I have open these conversations up with my family members as well?
So I've learned that probably the thing I lacked from was listening, being a good listener. And I would always try to fix everything immediately because that was my job. You go out and you fix it. And a lot of times people don't want it fixed. They just want you to listen to them. And so becoming a good listener is very important to be able to help somebody. A lot of times they know the answer. They just need to talk. One thing I did find, though, was that like at the firehouse, after a traumatic call, if I were to ask the 3 other people on the truck with me, hey, when we're done here, we have to go down and wash off all the body fluids and everything. Are you good with that? They would all say, oh, yeah, sure, let's go. We'll get an ice cream afterwards. But when you separate them, which I have done, and ask them individually, given the choice, would you rather go back to do that or send another truck? And they've all said, send another truck. So I think if you're going to ask your children, you might want to do it individually so that the alpha doesn't determine what the others are going to say or be afraid to say because they're going to be presumed weak or have a problem, basically. So listening and then just, separating them and asking individually. And then as a group, you can bring them all in. But everybody's got to be on that same page.
I think when we hear ACEs, sometimes maybe folks will generalize it to children, but ACEs really impacts folks across the lifespan. So how can we best describe ACEs to folks across the lifespan? Like, how is it that ACEs at childhood, how does that impact us long term as adults?
So I can tell you real quick here. I've had some stuff that when I did a timeline with my therapist, I've been in therapy for over 4 years, and I did a timeline with my therapist, and I had to start from 0 to 5 years of age. And my first memory was 4 years and 2 months old, and it was the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And my neighbor came screaming across the backyard. My mom and her and me watched it over and over and over for the next 2 days. And so it normalized trauma to me, watching someone get killed. It normalized it to me. And I think that's what made the job normal for me, because it was like that's how I grew up watching that. My mom drank a lot, yelled a lot, threw shoes at me and stuff like that. So when I got into the fire academy and the captains were yelling at me, I had no idea that I was smiling or smirking. And one of the captains asked me, they're this far away yelling at you. How come you're smiling? I said, sir, I'm not smiling. And it just kept going. Finally, why? And I said, because you remind me of my mom. And it was an adverse thing that I took with me, and it kind of set the tone for being in a bad condition. It didn't affect me, where it should or it could have or should have, And so it was just, it was growing up and being raised like that, and where there was some shining moments where it did make me stronger for some things. But if I could change it all over again, I'd have chose not to have any of those experiences so that I could learn positive things instead of the traumatic things that were brought before me.
But we have you here because of that now, so which is a good thing. So, cuando eres niño, tu subconsciente está más abierto y tu ego es más pequeño. Todo lo que te digan se te va a quedar grabado en el subconsciente. De acuerdo a la neurociencia, de lo que pasaste de los 7 a los 14 años es lo que te llevas a tu vida adulta. Entonces, la programación que traemos. Hoy reaccionas o tomas decisiones basado en esa programación 95%. Solamente 5% lo hacemos consciente.
Algo muy importante, quiero hacer un poquito, regresar a lo de ACEs y todo eso, para que se entienda un poquito cómo impacta hasta entonces. ACEs surgió dentro de la necesidad de un doctor que estaba tratando pacientes con obesidad, ¿no? En una clínica de San Diego, creo, no recuerdo muy bien. El doctor Vincent era, ¿no? Filippi. Entonces, él estaba entrevistando a sus pacientes con obesidad y veía por qué unas sí progresan y otras no progresan. Se cuenta, se rumora de que entre una de sus preguntas, él como que hizo mal la pregunta, ¿no? Cuando estaba haciendo una paciente y le dijo que hace cuánto había experimentado, qué recuerdo le traía de su vida, algo que había pasado muy fuerte, ¿no? Y ella, la paciente, le dijo que como cuando tenía 4 o 5 años, ella sufrió de abuso, ¿no? Físico y sexual, y eso era lo que ella traía muy cargado en su vida. Entonces, de ahí se dio cuenta y empezó a entrevistar a los pacientes. Ahora sí ellas habían encontrado experimentado un tipo de situación adversa o trauma en su vida, ¿no? Entonces él se dio cuenta que esto había impactado en salud, que la persona adquiriera sobrepeso, ¿no? O que se diagnosticara con obesidad. De ahí, después de los 90, esto fue como los 80s, a los 90, surge ya una investigación muy grande por el CDC en cuanto a los hospitales, una red hospitalaria que era Kaiser, que entrevistó a unas 17,000 pacientes, ¿no? Entonces, de ahí, esas eran las 10 preguntas específicas, ¿no? Como decía Esperanza, de abuso, negligencia y la dinámica familiar, ¿no? Entonces se vio que impactaba en cuanto a lo que era salud mental, salud física, ¿no? Más enfermedades cardiovasculares en los adultos, la obesidad, dolor crónico, en cuanto a salud mental y abuso de sustancias, ¿no? Y se vio que también la calidad de vida disminuía, ¿no? Como en 15 o 20 años, y ese era el impacto en la edad adulta. Y por eso vemos también muchas de las personas mayores con depresión, ansiedad y todo eso.
Todo lo que termina en itis, ¿no?
Sí.
Gastritis, colitis, artritis. Ujú. Ahora es lo que vemos en los adultos.
Wow.
Ujú. Con trauma, sí.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to add on to a little bit of what everybody has been saying. We do see an increased risk for heart disease. We do see an increased risk for depression in adulthood. We also see an increased risk for suicide as well. So just a lot of us might think, well, this only impacted me during my childhood. It's not something that I really carry with me, but it is all of those health effects that we do get in adulthood, as well as emotional impacts that we do face in our adulthood as well.
Yeah, great points. And I think it kind of shows how what happens at childhood doesn't just stay after once you turn 18. That doesn't magically go away. It follows you through adulthood and forward, and then that also then impacts your interactions with your future kids, and they're like that trickle effect and in the family unit.
El espejo.
Sí.
Somos el espejo de nuestros hijos.
It becomes a vicious cycle.
Yes. And so how do we break that vicious cycle? How do we as a community come together to break the stigma and the cycle that many times exists in communities, and then being realistic that we do have limited resources and where people are able to go, and ensuring that the resources that we do have, people are aware of them. So how do we as a community come together?
I think having empathy is probably one of the biggest things. One of my daughters had severe anxiety and wasn't diagnosed till later in the teens. And we'd go on calls for someone with anxiety, and we were like, God, they're wasting our time. You know, we could be out saving someone's life, and they're just, they're just anxious. And when I found out that my daughter had anxiety and needed medication to take care of it, it changed my whole outlook on how I treated the patients I went to. I treated them with kindness and love like I would want someone to treat my daughter with kindness and love. So I think it's an education on providers giving care, and not just that, but just everybody, because not everybody's, has the same ability to get through things, or to see something or hear something or smell something and get triggered by it, right? So it was life changing for me to change the way that I dealt with people, and even after with what they call compassion fatigue, even after being up for 20 hours straight, going on call after call after call, and then coming up on somebody, if the comfort wasn't there, if the compassion wasn't there, then we would send that person back to the truck and just say, why don't you go wait on the truck? We'll take care of this. Because this person deserved everything that you would want your child or your anybody in your family to deserve. So it was us changing the way we took care of people, and slowly filtering out. But it's really hard. I look at the people up in Tucson that are without homes, and knowing that maybe if they had this medication, they'd be fine. How do we help that? Most of the people in the jail have some type of mental illness and are getting their care in the jail, right? So I think talking about it and being compassionate and having empathy for people is a first step. instead of honking your horn, at them, right?
I think changing our views from what's wrong with this person to what is happening to this person. Yeah, that is very important too.
I think also going back to those preventative factors, we don't have to be licensed professionals to provide emotional support to one another. And emotional support can just be a hug at the end of a long day, or asking someone how their day was, listening to those people that we love and care about, telling those people that we love and care about that we love and care for them, right? So I think a lot of us forget that even the smallest moments can make a big impact in somebody's day or in somebody's life. I think somebody, or if I ask any of you guys here or anybody who is listening, what's one thing a person said or did for you that made you feel really special, it's not gonna really be that,
Big thing.
yeah, it's not going to be a huge thing. It's probably just going to be a pat in the back or a hug or something that they said that really stuck with you, a smile, right? So I think that's just being a supportive person, being empathetic towards one another, changing our view from what is wrong with you to how can I help you? What is something that I can do for you to get you through this tough moment? So yeah, just being there for people that you love and care about probably is going to be the biggest thing. Be in touch with your community.
I remember one time when I was at a local coffee shop, I smiled to the person in front, and he said, "Because you smile, I was having a such bad day, and because you smile, you made my day." So it was just a smile.
We never know what the person in front of us or behind us is going through, and that could be that one positive interaction could save someone's life, and we'll never know. But I think that's really important as we, as individuals, are out in the community, that just being an empathetic human can go a long way.
Yeah, and be empathic is not just, be on the other shoes, understanding others too. So. No? Okay.
So resilience sometimes is thrown out there, but as a positive side of some of these adverse childhood experiences, and that many times children that out of these experiences come out as adults as resilient. What is your guys' take on that? Or how is that positive, or how can we talk about resilience?
Se había estado hablando mucho de resiliencia, ¿verdad? Ahora en los medios, y yo lo veo como un poder de adaptación. Tenemos como seres humanos el poder de adaptarnos, de evolucionar. Lo hemos visto de cuando el hombre de la cueva de nuestros antepasados, ¿verdad? Hasta ahora, cómo se ha venido a incorporar el idioma a la comunicación. Tenemos esa herramienta ahora que decidimos a veces no usarla, la herramienta. Entonces nos vamos otra vez a hacer el primitivo que usaba la ira y el enojo cuando venía el león a atacarlo, o la huida, pero no tenía esa comunicación, solamente hacían ruidos. Y ahora tenemos ese poder de comunicarnos, y tenemos que ayudarles a los niños a desarrollar esa comunicación, decir qué les está molestando, me duele, me molesta, usar el yo y el por qué. Eso es muy importante.
Anyone else?
Vamos a agregar a lo que decía aquí mi colega Esperanza, yo creo que cuando uno empieza a hablar, empieza a sanar, ¿no? Y el platicar un poco de cómo nos sentimos, ¿no? Independiente a veces de lo que nos pasó, de ahí te lleva a la otra conversación. Por ejemplo, en cuanto a la educación para las familias, sería ayudarles a los niños a fortalecer su solución de problemas, ¿no? Por ejemplo, desde que un niño viene y se cae, en vez de decirle, ay, ya te caíste otra vez, levántate, o algo, nada más con la pregunta, ¿qué puedes hacer para la siguiente vez para que prevengas caerte o evitar caerte? Con eso ya estamos como poniendo una pequeña semillita en los niños de buscar como soluciones, ¿no? De buscar hablar, de buscar platicar con los padres y eso.
I think it also has to do a lot going back to perception. I don't know how many of us have been asked or have family members or know of somebody who have gone through similar situations, but end up completely different. One of them is resilient, the other one isn't. I think it's all about perception, what we teach our kids about perception. If we had a really bad day, but we're telling them that it was a really horrible day, that's all they're going to perceive. But if we as caregivers or parents or just sisters and brothers, we're like, well, we had a really bad day, but there was also all of these good things, and I was grateful to spend some time with you, and just trying to find the positive in all of the negative will be my piece of advice in building resiliency.
Un papá desregulado no puede regular un hijo fuerte.
For resiliency, I think there's some things you can do to take care of yourself, and that is, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you eat, make sure you sleep, make sure you can exercise, make sure that you have someone in your phone that is, I call them the Ghostbusters, someone you can call. When it gets bad, who are you going to call? Well, you have someone in your phone that you can call and say, hey, I just need to talk, or hey, I need help. And just knowing that there's someone there for you is a great thing. And with resiliency comes, for me, it was, in my own world, it was, I'm not going to do those same things that happened to me. I'm going to do it differently. I'm not going to drink. I don't drink. I'm not going to smoke. I don't smoke. And I had one parent that was very verbally, physically abusive, one that was loving and caring. And the loving and caring is what I'm saying, that's the one I'm using, right? I'm taking that one right there. That's the one I'm going to use. Not that you can't learn from the bad, because you can, right? You can say, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it this way, But there's things that my mom did that were just fantastic. Gave me the love of the mountains, the love of seeing the mountains. In the morning, that's my gratitude. I wake up, I look at the mountains, and I give gratitude for seeing the mountains in the morning, every morning. So there's little things that we can do, but we have to start by taking care of ourselves before we can take care of others.
Yeah, true. Cuando te subes al avión, ¿verdad? Lo primero que te dicen, te pones la mascarilla tú primero antes de ponérsela a alguien más.
And so for the audience that's listening, if any of them have felt that maybe this is a topic that they want to learn more about, or that they'd like to seek additional resources in the communities, either to connect their own children or themselves, what are some resources that each of your agencies have or that you're familiar with that we could refer folks to here?
En Mariposa tenemos un programa que se llama Alas de Mariposa, y Mariposa es un programa diferente cuando no tienes otro tipo de método para pagar tu cuidado de salud y físico. Puedes venir al departamento de elegibilidad independientemente de que tengas o no tengas seguro y aplicar para ver si calificas. También aceptamos el seguro de comercial, pago privado, y tenemos diferentes métodos para cubrir todo lo que tenemos de salud mental y física. Tenemos 4 terapeutas especializados, 5 conmigo ahora, y 3 consultores integrados que cubren diferentes lados. Cubrimos aquí en Nogales, Arizona, Tubac, Patagonia y Río Rico también. Hay ayuda. No dejen de venir a visitarnos si piensan que no tienen un método para que le cubra sus necesidades, porque sí hay diferentes métodos. Entonces, tenemos también un peer support y tenemos varios manejadores de casos que nos ayudan también a proveer herramientas para papás y para niños, para mamás también. Tenemos un programa, grupos que están especializados para mamás, que se encargan de proveer diferentes recursos para mamás en la comunidad, y educación también acerca de seguridad, diferentes temas. Tenemos un grupo de trauma y tenemos un grupo que es llamado El Cafecito, que también vienen, la mayoría son mujeres. Sí tenemos a un caballero ahí, pero la mayoría son mujeres que vienen también a hablar acerca de salud mental. Entonces, tenemos muchos programas para cubrirlos, y estamos felices de poderlos ayudar. Y no dejen de visitarnos. Pueden hablar al número 520-375-5000, preguntar también por el Departamento de Elegibilidad.
Perfecto, gracias.
Buenas tardes de nuevo. Pues Kodak acaba de iniciar dando servicios aquí. Aquí es la única clínica en Pima County, en Tucson. Son 4 clínicas, ¿no?, las que tenemos. Una es especializada en tratamiento de abuso de sustancias, ¿no?, lo que es el MAT Clinic, ¿no? Tenemos un programa también por la Country Club, que es SACASA, que son especialistas en abuso sexual y trauma. Y en el mismo centro de esa casa, en la Country Club, tenemos un gran que agarró Kodak, que es el Trauma Recovery Center, ¿no? Centro de recuperación para trauma, que esa no requiere aseguranza, ¿no? Es cuando tú pues no tienes aseguranza y nada, y ellos te ayudan en tu tratamiento con trauma, ¿no? Sé que esa casa en Kodak es la única que ve niños, ¿no?, en trauma. Las otras clínicas no vemos niños, vemos pues a los adultos nada más. Y tenemos 2 psicólogos clínicos, ¿no?, que trabajan especializando eso, ¿no?, en lo que es en los programas de trauma, ¿no? Y aquí en la comunidad, como decíamos, Kodak tenemos algo que se llama como No Grown Door Policy. O sea, aunque tú te presentes, se te va a ayudar de alguna manera. Así como no iniciamos en servicios, se te puede dar los recursos para que vas a otra parte donde sí te van a ayudar, ¿no? Pero pues con las manos vacías no te vas a ir, ¿no?, cuando te acerques a nuestro programa.
Gracias.
With Circles of Peace, we do have our parenting support group as well as parenting classes that are available. We also have our YADA group, which is Youth Against Drugs and Alcohol. And so we are in Western Avenue, right in front of the Circle K. We also provide any other support groups, charlas sobre la salud, with our prevention staff. And regarding behavioral health, I already spoke a little bit about our Thrive group in regards to probation, court order treatment with adolescents.
So the general public, we're going to, if they're in a crisis, mental health crisis, we will be transporting them to a facility, more likely Holy Cross. And then from there, that's where they'll get their care. For any first responder, police, fire, border patrol, dispatch, corrections, we have a lot of programs set up for them. Also, we have people, organizations that have donated dollars for us to pay their copay, so there's no cost to them to go in to get this assistance that they need. And what really happens is we start building this train, and it gets more and more momentum, and it's starting to push and push and push, and more people are getting on this train and helping others. When I needed help, I called a firefighter from another fire agency, and he got me in for therapy. And right now I have 4 other firefighters that I'm working with. And had he not helped me, I wouldn't be able to help the others. So it's just we're building this momentum right now, and it's a really good thing to see. I'm sad that it has to happen, but we're able to work on it and try to make things better so that you can struggle well.
I think this is a testament to the network that we have in Santa Cruz County and the different approaches that all organizations are taking to best provide the support that our communities need. I know at CHEC we also provide health education, and we're out in the community doing one-on-one education with folks and really focusing on addressing the stigma that exists around talking about mental health and just seeking help. So as we are coming to a close, is there anything else that you all would like to share that you haven't already shared about ACEs or the work that you all are doing?
So we do have a mental health gathering. It's in April of every year. We had our 3rd one this April the 2nd, the TCC in Tucson. We had over 500 people show up. We have vendors. We have speakers that we bring in from all across the country, specifically on mental health. But we cover the triangle, which is physical health, mental health, financial health, because we want to make sure that everybody has those 3 triangle corners covered so that they support the other one. Mm-hmm. And so every April we have it. It's free to attend. A lot of great resources, but incredible presenters that come out and talk about their struggles or whatever, and then what they did to get better and how they're helping others right now. So again, I'll be sure to pass on the information to get it out there, but it's every April. We did our our third one, and now we're actually looking at maybe going a day and a half because the one day just isn't enough to cover all of the people that are coming to attend. And I mean, who'd have thought that you get 500 first responders to fill up a room for mental health, right? But they're doing it, so that's got to speak to something. And there's free childcare. The Height Foundation has free childcare. It's a win-win-win for anybody that wants to go. So.
I think that's a great resource, and I think for the audience who maybe are able to partake, and I'm sure we'll be able to share more information for when the event comes back around in April of next year.
Something I forgot to mention about Circles of Peace, we also offer the first mental health first aid training. So if anybody wants to be trained as a mental health first aider, what that means is just learning to recognize the signs of symptoms of mental health struggles, mental health challenges in adults or youth as well. So if anybody is interested on getting trained as a mental health first aider, please don't feel free to reach out to Circles of Peace to 520-281-0579.
Thank you.
There is help.
Yeah.
You don't have to be strong, right?
Yeah, we're not alone.
Yeah, that is okay not to be strong today. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. And I know that on the caption we'll be including the handles for the different organizations. And remember as well, if you need anyone or you know of someone who needs support, there's also local support, but also the hotline, the 988 that anyone can call 24/7. And so thank you for tuning in. And I'm sure that this is the first of many conversations that we'll have around destigmatizing mental health and hopefully being able to get community members to the resources that they need. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.